Shanghai, and we have a campus in China. And in that sense, when a lot of people ask us whether it is a franchise program, it's actually not. It is one single degree, and we are a branch campus of the UK Nottingham. So I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, and under the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, we have 7 schools. Okay? So we have the business school is one of them. So the one that everybody knows about is the Nottingham University Business School, and we are actually accredited with AMBA accreditation and also ACQUIS. So we are going towards our AACSB accreditation, which I believe that we should achieve pretty soon. So that is our business school, and we also have our MBA programs in Singapore. So therefore, we are looking more and more towards international collaboration and international market, not only in terms of student recruitment, but also in research and so on and so forth, and even in executive education. So besides the business school, we have politics, history, and international relations. We have a school of education, school of economics in Nottingham is very well known in the UK, and we have the Department of Applied Psychology, and we have a very interesting program in Masters in Psychology and Management. So it will be very good for people who would like to make human resource their career, and so that is a very good Masters program. Then we have School of English, and then we have School of Modern Languages and Cultures. And because I'm the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, I basically don't sort of micromanage in a sense, but the schools are basically led by the 7 respective head of schools. So we have our largest population, of course, is from the business school, because business school is the most established. So the first time when Nottingham UK set foot in Malaysia, the business program is the first program that we started. So this year we are celebrating our 15th year anniversary. And we have 2 campuses. One is what we call in the heart of Kuala Lumpur, we call that our Kuala Lumpur Teaching Center. And we have our full-fledged university campus in Semenye, which is about 45 minutes away from Kuala Lumpur. So there's no fear about traffic jams, because we are always going against the traffic. When people are going out, we are coming in. When people are coming in, and we are going out. So that is a kind of a location, if you will give you, some kind of a reference point. So we also have a Faculty of Science and also a Faculty of Engineering. So we have many research centers, and if you're interested, you can look at some of our website. You can look at our websites and look at some of the research centers that we have. So one of the new centers that is established is called Center for Islamic Research in Business and Finance. Of course, everybody knows that in Islamic finance is growing, and a lot of expressed interest in the industry. A lot of banks are opening up. Some of them don't open up a full-fledged branch, but they call the Islamic windows, to cater to the needs of the finance in terms of Islam. So I think without further ado, let me just go over the slides very quickly. Now, I don't profess to be an expert, and neither have I done any research in pedagogy. So therefore, when I was asked to share some kind of a management education and pedagogy, it really set me thinking a lot about what you would like to know. So hopefully I have prepared something that is of interest to you. So maybe I move over here so that I can work on my slides better. So now, management education, as you know, we have multiple pressures. Pressure from business school leaders, all our bosses want us to make money, right? And then on the other hand, we are full, and we need to say that there is something else, that we need to do. So pressure from students for clarity, consistency, pressure from employers, and say that we must produce students who are, the word is market ready. And what does that mean? So what is market ready to one industry may not be market ready to another industry. So therefore, we then have to look at the kind of a common skills, that would be relevant for most industries. So therefore, the choice of instructional strategies is a key aspect of course success and satisfying the multiple demands of stakeholders. So now, management education is a complex area to teach. I'm sure many of you will agree with me. Now, so all of us work under a complex and dynamic environment. So very often you hear that, the only constant is change. Very cliche kind of a statement. But when you ponder a little bit more, it really is true that, we are changing all the time. So now the demands, what we used to teach well and that used to be effective may not be effective today, right? And the study of business management actually makes it more complex because, we derive our disciplines from a variety of traditional disciplines. So economics, and then psychology, and so on and so forth. Even in the area of marketing, we draw a lot from economics, we draw a lot from psychology, especially motivational studies, area of studies on consumer behavior, what people buy and what people don't buy. There's a lot to do with psychology, students, and students come from a diverse population. They have different learning orientations. Some prefer you to teach them. Some say, no, you don't teach me, you only guide me. So that is a different kind. And then at the postgraduate level, it has become even more complex. So you find that in your MBA class, one student may rate you as a superb lecturer. One will give you a horrible score. Why does that happen? Because they come from different backgrounds with different expectations, and then to make things worse, we make them and we say that it's compulsory, core. So we make them do core subjects, and you happen to be the unlucky lecturer teaching the core, you will find that your score will vary a lot in terms of your teaching evaluation. Am I correct? But if you do an elective course, you find that there is less standard deviation with regards to the score that they have given you. Why is that so? Because they choose what they like to do. And so if they have signed up for your course, which means that they are interested in that subject area. So, and if you teach well, definitely you are going to give you a good score. Alright, so now, in recent times, students, in the old days, you just go back to the time when you were a student and you graduated. Was there a problem with employment? No, right? Because, the minute you graduated from a university with a university degree, you are just immediately snapped up by organizations and you found your job. So I know, but in recent times, you hear so much about employability. Students want employability. And University of Nottingham has got the #1, in terms of employability. 90% of our students actually got a job within the 6 months upon graduation. So therefore, these are all the competing demands, and therefore, it makes management education very challenging. So now, if I go back to a little bit, because Nottingham University is UK based, so I would like to share with you some of the quality assurance from the UK. So the Quality Assurance Agency UK, QAA, has got what we call the subject benchmark statements that identify the purpose of general and business management programs. So there are 3. The study, so therefore management program is a study of organizations, their management, and the changing external environment in which they operate. The preparation for and development of a career in either business or management, enhancement of lifelong learning skills. I think the world over has emphasized lifelong learning. Even in Malaysia, we have this lifelong learning as a main, one of the things that, the areas that university education should focus on. So now when it comes to the Malaysian qualifications framework, it is an instrument that develops and classifies qualifications based on a set of criteria that are approved and at par with international practices, and that clarifies the academic levels, the learning outcomes of study areas and credit system based on student academic load. So I won't go very much into details, just so that I introduce to you that in Malaysia we have the qualifications framework and we have what we call the MQ, the Malaysian Qualification Agency, just like the QAA in the UK. All right. So therefore, when it comes to quality assurance that are put in place, that basically is to give assurance to students and their parents and the society about what we represent. Okay. Now, so when it comes back to thinking about pedagogy, I can't run away from Bloom's taxonomy. Although you may say that it is very old, but I think it's still relevant. So therefore, this Bloom's taxonomy was created in 1956, so under Dr. Benjamin Bloom. So this, the taxonomy actually evaluates the concepts, process, procedures, and principles, rather than just remembering facts. So, no longer we like to talk about rote learning. Now, therefore, there are three domains, about Bloom's taxonomy: the cognitive, that means the mental skills; the affective, and the psychomotor; the physical skills, the manual and the physical skills. So, because not all disciplines are the same, so therefore you have got these three domains. I'll concentrate just on the cognitive. So what happened is that the original domain and the new domain, which is the revised domain, basically remain very much the same. So I use the color to indicate to you one has been at the same level. So knowledge and remembering. Then you have the comprehension and understanding, application, analysis. So the synthesis has, in the original domain, has been moved up to the new domain and is called creating, whereas the evaluation in the original domain is now moved up to the lower level and is called evaluating. So you notice the change in the words, from a noun to action verb. Okay, so that's the main difference here between the new domain and the original domain. Okay, so therefore, in our learning outcomes and in our assessment, based on the domains, we have what we call the keywords that we use. So therefore, when we talk about, when we want students, when we set our assessment, our exam questions, we always try to build the level of students' capability. So therefore, we have certain questions that are at the lower level, which is remembering, understanding. Okay. So what kind of words do we use to test students or to evaluate students in terms of the different categories in the domain? So for example, if you want to test how much students understand the concept and the theory that you have taught in the class, you will then use the word like distinguish, interpret. Okay, interpret the theory of, let's say, the theory of planned behavior. Right? But if you want to go down to evaluating, you want them to make judgments, you will then say, okay, can you critique, can you appraise, can you compare, and things like that. So therefore, in our course design, in our learning outcomes, we progressively bring students from the lower level to the higher level in terms of the Bloom's taxonomy. So I do that a lot. And you'll find that in an exam, you can't do all. But in the course, you can do all with different methods of assessment. So, like for example, when you require students to do a project, then at the end, it is what we call the synthesis level at creating. We then ask them to do all that, and a new business proposal, for example. And that creating a new business proposal would encompass all the lower level domains under the cognitive domain. Okay? So, learning outcomes. So therefore, what connects us to the cognitive domain based on the Bloom's taxonomy is to look at the learning outcomes. So I think in all our courses, all our modules, we have the learning outcomes, right? So in the learning outcomes, you say what is. So therefore, in all programs, they demonstrate how the aims and the LOs are achieved across the spectrum of modules. So how knowledge and skills are developed and assessed. So therefore, if you have a program called MBA, you have the program A, program outcome. And so under that, you have all the different modules, and not every module needs to fulfill all the program learning outcomes. But if you put the composite of all your programs together, your courses of your modules together, it will then lead towards achieving the program learning outcome and program A. So that's how we design our pedagogy. Yeah? Learning takes place through your teaching and your assessment strategies. So therefore, you have the curriculum design and shifting. So there is a shift now from increased focus on transferable and technical subject-specific skills to focus on critical thinking and reflective skills. So now we use professional and research to inform teaching. So therefore, you find that in so much of my in my academic career, I do a lot of research and all that. So people as a new market segment, or you don't see them as one. I don't know. See, so you have got to look into that. Okay. Now, so assessment can be problem-based, can be case studies, can be dissertations, learning logs, self and peer assessment, a lot of those, okay? Now, I just share with you some of the teaching and assessment methods commonly used, and you can tell me whether you use or not. I think we use a lot of these. We use lectures, we have exercises, discussions, Q&A, end of lecture questions. We always like to have end of lecture questions, right? Because we want to know whether our students understand what we teach, you know. Writing, so we ask them to write essays, individual assignments. We have group work because we want to test whether they can do teamwork, okay? We have class tests, just so that we know very quickly if they know basic concepts, okay? Class test is good for that, you know. Then we give them case study. So why case study is so interesting? And because, you know, it's like our own personal life history. It's about a history of an organization. So therefore, it withstands the test of time. So case studies are never out of date. Yeah, it can only be how much relevant in today. But it is all, you know, when you want to study the success of an organization, invariably you have got to go back to the history of the organization, and the case study helps you in understanding that, okay? So you can have guided reading. I'm sure you give a lot of journal articles to your students to read, you know, and then student presentations, so you build them in terms of their communication skills and their confidence. And also it's a good test whether they understand or not. So if the student stands up there and finds that, you know, he stumbles and all that, that means, you know, the concept and what he wants to present is really not very clear in his mind. If not, he or she will not, you know, find that there's loss of words or whatever that the person stops. Now, research project or mini thesis is the most interesting to me, because it's also through that you can work very closely with your student that will also lead towards your publication. So we do a lot of that. Alright, now, so you notice that my previous slides, I have not touched on the new media at all. So now, the new media. So you have very much a multimedia-based approach, you know, podcasts, iPad, interactive, e-forum, simulation games, you know. I do not know, do you use all these? Yeah, so I'm sure it depends on the discipline. Yeah, so I'm sure those of you who are in the IT will use a lot. And so now we have what we call MOOC, and our university does that as well. We have more massive open online courses. So if you go to the website and you Google, you find that, you know, there's a lot of things about, a lot of courses that you can sign up for. Then of course, you know, in order to ensure employability, relevance to employers, we have what we call the internship. I think a lot of universities practice that as well. Okay, so finally, when we look at our courses, there has to be some kind of a cross-curricular themes, and that affects not just finance but marketing and so on and so forth. For example, the issue of ethics. You know, people talk about ethics. So, well, you can argue about how useful teaching of ethics is. You say that if it is ethics, then should cigarette companies sell cigarettes? You know that it's bad for health. But then on the other hand, you say that, well, marketing says that give consumers what they want, you know. So if they want cigarette, let them be, you know. So I'm sure there is a lot of argument with regards to ethics. And then you say that if business school starts to teach ethics, why is it that you still have so much of unethical behavior? About this, about that. Why do people do this and that that is against all form of moral standards? So I think my presence here today is not to argue about that, but having said that, I think be guided by moral and ethical behavior. Okay? So we also don't run away from our environment, because it is very much what we teach our society is very much contextual on the environment that we operate. Then the economy, of course. So, of course, the integration part comes from linking the theory with practice. So you say that people behave in a way or people don't behave in a way. Why is that so? So let me tell you an interesting story. Back in the Second World War days, you know, eating, so in the Western societies, in the UK and in the US, people don't eat what we call organ meat. Do you know the meaning of organ meat? So the heart, the liver, the intestines, the stomach, you know, people don't eat that because that is not for human beings to consume, you know. And you know, during the Second World War, meat is hard to come by. Food alone is hard to come by, let alone meat, right? And the meat will have to be sent to the soldiers in the front line that fought the war, right? So now there's nothing left for consumers. So then, but then again, people won't eat. So do you know what the marketers do? How do they campaign for people and change people's mindset towards consumption of organ meat? So what they say that if you consume organ meat, you're being patriotic. See that? See, marketing is interesting. So it sells hope because, and it sells good values because you want to be patriotic. Your young men are or were in the front line fighting the war. They need the nutrition, they need the energy, they need to eat. So how do we sacrifice? We can't fight the war as women folks, but what could we do? We can be patriotic by cooking the organ meat for our household to consume. So organ meat, interesting, huh? So I've got a lot of interesting stories to share with you, but not today. Now then we come to the assessment strategies, you know. So we have various, we all employ different assessment methods so that we can at least be sure that we have achieved our learning objectives for the students. So for example, we have, I've gone through some already, but I just want to pick up mini dissertation. It actually provides students with opportunities to identify and critique theory and knowledge underlying their practical studies. So for example, you know, students always complain about the syllabus that they have to cover, right? Am I correct? Yes. But you now tell them that, look, I now don't give you any more syllabus. I can tell you they are even far more stressful when you give them the syllabus because they have to start thinking, you know, reflecting. Now for my mini dissertation, what am I going to do now? Am I correct? And they keep, those days when you give them syllabus, they don't run to you, am I correct? But now you don't give them any syllabus, they come to you. They keep on running to you, you know, to try to download from you what are the possible areas of research. So therefore, linking research to teaching, that's where the relevance comes. When you yourself do a lot of research, you will then notice that there are a lot of gaps in your own area of research that you can now guide your students. And you say, okay, I'm interested to find out about this. Would you be interested? Sometimes they have no choice, but they declare to you, whatever, you know, so long as I can finish my mini dissertation, whatever, yet you give it to me. So therefore, ultimately, the students will, you're not, don't see it as you are giving your job to somebody else to do. No, you shouldn't think like that. It should be that you are building capacity. Say for example, in Malaysia, I think I'm the first one who work in the area of looking at aging, looking at older consumers as a market segment. And so it's new. So therefore, you